Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, October 14th, 2019. Welcome to the evening edition of Grand Solar Minimum News Update. Let's take a look at our space weather to start with. Right now, our solar winds are coming in at 338.0 kilometers per second. And right now, we have not seen an increase in solar wind like was expected. And again, it was basically explained that it could graze Earth's magnetic field. So technically, for once, it actually forecasted it right, because in the beginning it told us very low chance, but we could see solar wind grazing Earth's magnetic field on the 14th. And since this morning, we've seen solar wind speeds decrease. Same as this morning as well, with 0 sunspots. That's 11 days in a row, and 210 for 2019. And earlier this morning, I made a comment about 90% for the rest of the year. All I was saying was that to get to where I would expect the number to be somewhere around 277, I was approximately speaking out in terms of that it would have to be spotless for the 90% of the last 75 to 78 days left in the year. Was not trying to say that we were going to be at 90% spotless days for 2019. Just pointing out, to get to the number that I had called out, we needed to be about 90% spotless for the remainder of the year. Just wanted to clear that up because I know there was some confusion earlier. Our TCI coming in at 4.35, KP indices unchanged at 1 right now and a max of 2. And the cosmic ray dose actually went down a little bit. This morning we reported at 10.1%. Now we are looking at 9.8%. with a 30-day change of 0.2% as far as cosmic rays. And taking a look at the SDO in motion, well, not a lot to really talk about. We do have a coronal hole that is very weak, that is coming towards Earth facing as we speak right now. A couple of coronal holes in the southern part of our star, but nothing that should affect, to this point, Earth's magnetic field. Now let's take a look here at SPACEWEATHER.com, where this instrument here, we get to look at pretty much the big picture, and the negative 90 region where we see that large coronal hole, that we'll be dealing with. That is approaching the eastern limb as we speak, but there is no indication, once again, unless we get sudden activity, that we are going to be dealing with any kind of a sunspot here within the near future. So looks like we're going to remain to be quiet on the sun for a little while longer, but there is a little bit of solar activity in the form of possibly just increased solar winds on the horizon within the next 7 to 12 days. Let's get right into the show, folks. Search and rescues in Japan after Typhoon Hagibis, and record weather conditions across the United States. By the way, that's our new design there Mari came up with. That's sharp if you ask me. All right, so let's lead off though with some news out of Canada. Thanks to the watchers. State of emergency after unprecedented October snowstorm leaves 250,000 without power in Manitoba, Canada. Now this was as of Sunday, October 13th. Around 32,000 homes and businesses remain without electricity. Now, this snowstorm started on Thursday, the 10th, and continued into Friday, October 11th. While October snow in this region is not completely unheard of, this unusually harsh 3-day snowstorm has arrived considerably earlier than usual, meteorologists said. I'm going to stop right there. I will continue to preach this because that's the only reason why that I said what I said earlier this year. Back in the spring, April to be exact, we were reading about the winter starting up 2 months early with snowfalls like this that we're seeing here. And the one thing that I'd mentioned in that broadcast was that usually we can get an indicator of what the Northern Hemisphere's weather outlook is going to be just by watching what happens in the Southern Hemisphere. They got early cold and snow, and right now we are experiencing the same. And there's more to go around, and it's almost like that this is coming through in waves. Each week we get a new part of the section of the country that gets freezing temperatures and snow showers with it. But again, this is not unusual to see snow in this region of Canada. But for these folks, definitely a little heavier than they thought. At some point, more than 250,000 customers were without power. In some areas, they have more lines and poles down than standing, said a Manitoba Hydro Chief Executive Officer Jay Gruel. Says our crews are out working hard 16 hours a day, doing the best they can to restore the power. So a very common scene that was seen over the weekend here in the United States as well. This storm affected both our friends in the above the Canadian border and us here in the lower 48 as well. North Dakota saw up to 2 feet in some areas that buried crops. I can't tell you how many pictures that we had saw over the weekend. Those crops are in big trouble right now, and we will scramble and continue to find as much information by our Wednesday show, and we'll give an update on our crops as well. And while we're talking about October snows, well, once again on Wetchers, we're pointing that out here. Record weather conditions across USA in the first half of October. Strong early season snowstorm pounded several parts of the United States in the first half of October. The unusual weather sets records with snowstorms blanketing the northern Rockies and northern plains. Meanwhile, blizzard conditions have hit Dakota, while Denver dropped to a record low of 13 degrees Fahrenheit. Widespread extreme wind events in California also prompted a massive power shutoff and the prevention of wind-induced fires. And this is kind of a recap here from what we've experienced, and I'm going to go ahead and read some of this. On October 8th, 2019, Spokane, Washington experienced a record 3 inches of snow, which torn down branches of trees. The storm also triggered power outages affecting over 30,000 customers in the area on October 9th. Now, folks, we're still looking at green leaves on these trees, so that heavy snow accumulation doesn't take much when the trees still have all their leaves on it, add that extra added weight, and this is why we have tree limbs down on power lines. Meanwhile, 16 inches of snow was recorded in Helena, bringing the 2-week total of snow to 26 inches in Great Falls, Montana. The intense weather caused travel disruptions leading to canceled flights and drivers struggling on the road. In Denver, the second biggest temperature change on record was experienced by locals. It was also the city's largest temperature swing for the month of October. From 83 degrees Wednesday afternoon, by Thursday morning, it was 13 degrees. Thursday evening, it was 13 degrees Fahrenheit that evening. Whopping difference, tied for the second largest temperature drop in Denver since 1872. Wow. In addition, the record low of 13 on Wednesday, October 9th, and 9 on October 10th shattered old records of 4 and 13, respectively. This is remarkable since the most records are usually broken by just a degree, regardless of its record high and low, CBS reported. So watchers pointing out what a bang we've seen here for Old Man Winter in October. The storm grew into an all-out blizzard, slammed in the northern plains on October 11th. The snowstorm was the second in less than 2 weeks. Remember, we had the 52 inches that fell in Montana the week prior. Snow started accumulating in towns across northern Dakota 48 hours later, giving them 2 feet of snow. A strong, slow-moving coastal storm hit the upper mid-Atlantic and the southern New England states. Heavy rain and raging waters, harsh winds lashed out in areas. Nor'easter eventually strengthened into Tropical Storm Melissa. Around 4 inches of rain was recorded in Nantucket, Massachusetts as of Saturday. And October 12th, maximum gusts of 54 miles an hour were experienced on the island. In Northern California, PG&E conducted power outages for almost 1 million customers in order to prevent wildfire risk due to strong winds. Dry conditions, gusts, and low humidity are said to be the factors contributing to the potential risk. And, the first half of October, they kind of left out the the first big snowstorm that we had in the first week of October. Well, actually, that wasn't October. That was late September. Wow. So late September, they had 52 inches of snow. And now here in October, we have at least one big snowstorm after another, and the potential for more, even more snow to fall here in the future. And I'll go ahead and go over that in a little bit. So, well, let me wait for that. Let's continue to do our weather here, our world headlines. Tropical Depression 15 forms in a rare location, so late in the Atlantic hurricane season. This is the second system now that we've had a rare occasion of formation. Lorenzo was a Cat 5, but this one here, Tropical Depression 15, has formed near the western coast of Africa and the far eastern Atlantic Ocean, a region where tropical cyclone formation is very rare this time of year. The new depression was just over 300 miles southeast of Cabo Verde Islands as of Monday evening, moving northwestward in a general direction of those islands. Now let's take a look at the cone here. Very odd indeed. Rainfall totals of 1 to 3 inches, locally up to 5 inches in higher terrain are expected across the islands, especially across the eastern portion of the islands. This may lead to flash flooding and mudslides. Tropical storm force winds, 39 plus miles an hour, could arrive in the eastern Cabo Verde Islands by Tuesday morning, then gradually spread westward into the central portion of the islands by Tuesday night. Winds of this magnitude will make outside preparations difficult or just dangerous. Rapid weakening expected to begin by Wednesday morning as this system moves away from the Cabo Verde Islands and encounters unfavorable upper-level winds. Therefore, it poses no threat to any other land besides the Verde Islands. So, again, this talks about why it's such a rare development. Well, here's why. Look at the warmer waters near the United States versus where they are in Africa. But this kind of gives down a breakdown of the locations of storms. And this one really is, look at this. Wow. So 15, you guys can see that. Let's get the handy dandy blue arrow out. What do you say, folks? So this is why it's such a record to form right here. Usually this was the furthest east in the Atlantic, but look at these. Normally at this time of year forming closer to right here. Couple stray ones. This is extremely rare. They're just underselling it, folks. But this is only going to affect here and then die off as it gets up to here. High pressure is also dominating here in the middle of the Atlantic as well. And some bad news out of Japan. Search and rescues in Japan ongoing after Typhoon Hagibis kills more than 50, floods thousands of homes. We saw pictures of bullet trains submerged, but search and rescue crews dug through the mud and scored riverbanks Monday in Japan looking for people left missing from powerful Typhoon Hagibis. At least 56 people were killed, 16 were missing, and about 100 were injured, according to the Kyodo News Agency. Many places in southern and central Japan remained flooded Monday or were covered with mud and debris left by the torrential rains overflowing rivers caused by Hagibis. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism, 37 rivers in Nagano, Fukushima, Ibaraki, and 3 other prefectures had flooded. More than 3,400 homes across the country were flooded, and 38,000 people remain in shelters in 17 prefectures. Typhoon made landfall in the Shizuoka Prefecture about 7 p.m. Saturday with winds nearly 90 miles per hour. Flooding drove residents from their homes in several provinces. He says here, I extend condolences for all those who lost their lives and offer my sympathy to those who are impacted by this typhoon, the Prime Minister was quoted saying. 360 people were stranded in Nagano after a levee on the Kuma River collapsed. Rescue helicopters plucked victims from rooftops of flooded homes. So lots of damage. Here's those pictures of the bullet trains that were submerged. Check that out. That's just a tip. Tornado also hit in a region from this storm as well. Just about everything here. So very busy week with this typhoon, the wind event with the fires. You have 3 snowstorms since September 29th. A nor'easter that caused a little bit of havoc. And it's only the 14th of October, folks. All right, let's go back to our website. Here's the next article. Well, not article. This is something that, thank you, Mr. David Birch, the Starman himself, sent to me the other day on Twitter. Guys, look at this. And I'm leaving the link here on our website. Science Briefs, Cloud Climatology, Computer Climate Models. Check this out. This is buried away on its website. Because there are so many possibilities for change, climatologists must know how clouds over the entire Earth will respond, determining that response calls for computer models of the global climate that can explore changing conditions several decades into the future. Climate models are a set of mathematical equations that describe the properties of Earth's atmosphere at discrete positions and times, along with ways such properties can change. The challenge for the climate model is to account for the most important physical processes and their complex interactions accurately enough to carry climate prediction tens of years into the future. When contemporary models are given information about Earth's present condition, the size, shape, and topography of the continents, the composition of the atmosphere, the amount of sunlight striking the globe, they create artificial climates that mathematically resemble the real one. They can forecast wind, rain, temperature, cloud coverage, and radiation balance within 10 to 15% of the magnitude of their real-world counterpart. 10 to 15%, folks. And NASA says it right here. Unfortunately, that margin of error is too large for making a reliable forecast about global warming. A doubling in atmospheric carbon dioxide predicted to take place in the next 50 to 100 years is expected to change the radiation balance at the surface by only 2%. Yet, according to climate models, even such a small change could raise global temperatures between 2 to 5 degrees Celsius, with potentially dramatic consequences. If a 2% change makes that much of a difference, a climate model must be accurate to within at least 0.5% to be useful. Thus, today's models must be improved more than tenfold in accuracy, requiring much more and much better data for developing a better understanding of clouds. Wow. Thank you, Starman, once again for sharing this with me. Again, NASA is even saying that this is not reliable forecasting methods for global warming. Very interesting. Is this the beginning of a small disclosure? NASA's been doing it all year. It started with a NASA scientist who came out and said that solar cycle 25 will be the lowest activity cycle in the last 200 years. Hello, read between the lines. NASA's also last year came out with a story that admitted that so far we know that CO2 is greening our planet. It did not yet step out and say that it was warming the planet. So who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust a space agency who studies this stuff on a daily basis and now they sound skeptical about man-made climate change? Or trust a company that, or an organization like NOAA or IPCC that are money and motivated? And sure, NASA gets its share of grants as well. I get that. But that's why you have to read between the lines with NASA. NASA didn't announce grand solar minimum on the horizon. They just told us that the solar cycle would be the weakest in the past 200 years. For those of you who follow solar cycles, you know what that means. And, it brings me to when Zarkova's paper was released in June 24th this year in nature.com. And she's fighting very, very hard right now, guys. There are people out there who are trying to have nature.com retract the paper. And what's amusing is that I was looking at the comments on the paper on nature.com, and these people that are questioning Zarkova's work, they're adding words to her paper. In fact, you'll see several times where she's telling people to read the paper, read the paper. It's because they're saying things that she didn't even say in the paper. And it makes her believe that nobody's actually reading the paper. Just like when this paper became very scrutinized by several members in this community. And again, they didn't read the paper. So interesting to see this from NASA. So far this year, NASA's been pretty upfront about what's happening with the solar cycle and what's happening with our climate. NASA, believe it or not, since 2018, I've noticed anyway, from my personal experience, it could be longer than that. But we're starting to see these small little tidbits here and there. And the thing is, you got to be on the know. You got to follow this stuff. And thank God for Starman. I would have never found this. So again, thanks again for that really very useful and very shocking statement from NASA themselves. And it's almost like they're calling out the IPCC and NOAA. Like, hey, you guys need to pump the brakes here. 10 to 15% of margin of error is way too much to say what the effects of man-made impacts are on the climate, if any at all. So very interesting article indeed. And Liz Warren is introducing a new bill that will block the exporting of natural gas. Massachusetts passed reliance on Russian natural gas to keep citizens warm in the winter could cause some damage to Senator Elizabeth Warren, whose presidential campaign is tied to the anti-fracking movement. Warren introducing the bill on Wednesday with fellow Massachusetts Democrat Senator Ed Markey that would block construction on ports that export natural gas. She is pegging her campaign to ending oil as her state recovers from an energy crunch that tossed Massachusetts into the cold in 2018. So if they're already struggling with their finances to keep citizens warm, it's not going to take long for this state to see what a major mistake banning natural gas exporting will be. Exports, I should say. Again, I hate to say it because I know there's some people out there that think Liz is a nice lady and all, but everybody that you see in the political world that is trying to implement a Green New Deal like policy under their state's legislation, unfortunately, she has a golden ticket to the IPCC carbon credit sweepstakes. So she stands to make money off of what she's doing here. Again, just another example of trying to show you guys that these new green policies that some of these Democratic leaders are showing us, they have nothing to do with climate change whatsoever. They are trying to change the economy forever. It's important that, that's lovely. Mari did a wonderful job there in Pocahontas.
You're welcome, Jake.
What is it, 0.3% Cherokee?
If that.
Check us out, Teespring, 15% off when you type in GSM Love. Mari made some new shirts. And I'll announce this, guys. And any donations, we would direct them to the PayPal link that is on the website. Just because we are in a crunch. This is the final 2 weeks of our fundraiser. We're ending it at the end of October. We don't usually do these kinds of things, and so we tried to make some new merchandise for folks to buy. But if you're not interested, we are down to the last final bit of our fundraiser. We are down about $300. We have raised the majority of the funds that we needed through sales of merchandise. And it's crunch time for us here at the Grand Solar Minimum. So if you guys can spare it, it doesn't matter how big or how small the donation, it is greatly appreciated. And please use the PayPal link as these funds that we are collecting right now will be used for this month. By the end of the month, we are facing a deadline. Right now, it does appear that we are going to meet that deadline the way we have moved with our sales of merchandise. But we need a little bit more of a push here, folks. We're only 300 away, And after that, hopefully you'll never ever hear of another fundraiser like this. But just one of those things where this is taking a lot of time and investment as well, but this is important as well to make sure that we continue to push the truth about climate. And, you know, we've been harassed a lot by IPCC and AGW folks out there. And I'm pretty sure that our channel has suffered some analytic damage as well. And that still has not scared us off. It won't. Just because we're onto it, we've hit a nerve, we know what's going on, we have the answers as far as why they're protecting this, and we show scientific data to give you the answers on how it happens. It's not just a Monday morning quarterback gut feeling here that we're just throwing a hunch out here. Hey, we're gonna go against the grain of all the so-called consensus and just say we're cooling. No, that's not what's happened here, folks. We've been doing this research for more than 3 years now, and very convincingly just by witnessing by our own eyes, because we have covered this channel for 3 years. We see things on a daily basis that we haven't seen before when we first started doing this. So I had no idea on some of these extreme weather events how bad they were actually going to get. So, oh joy, the map is not in session. But no, folks, if you have it, great. If you don't, no worries. We continue to appreciate the support that we do receive from all of our subscribers just by simply subscribing, liking, and sharing our content. Again, we care about the integrity of the topic, and it's important that when this news gets delivered to the public, you got to keep a calm, cool head about it, folks. And nothing to exaggerate. And I'll be honest with you, there's nothing to fear it up about when you're talking about this type of an event, grand solar minimum. It doesn't need any help. It doesn't need any sensationalizing. Trust me. It is doing its own damage on its own. Again, quiet weather. We needed this. I talked about this a little bit this morning. Here's our current look at our radar. We're getting some rain showers across the south, but right now, nothing too severe. This is what we're looking at on Wednesday. Let's take a look at tomorrow. We will look at some flash flooding possible across the south, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina. Thunderstorms across most of the Midwest, the Tennessee Valley, and into Texas as well. And now let's look at Wednesday. This is Thursday, and we are looking at more rain and showers and thunderstorms across the Northeast by this time, and a cold front sweeping across the United States, bringing up our next system. And here's another look at the tropics. Again, this thing, Tropical Depression 15, is actually being now categorized as a storm. 35 mile per hour winds, a pressure of 1,006, moving northwest at 8 miles per hour. But once it hits those islands, they're not thinking it's going to do much more damage. Again, 3 to 4 inches of rain expected and wind gust of around 65 miles per hour. We do have a couple other areas that have some concern, but very low percentage of formation, 20% over 5 days here, and then right here in the Gulf around Mexico, 20% in 5 days, again 0% in the 24-hour period time. Let's take a quick look at our GFS. We'll take a look at the precipitation and our temperatures coming up for the last part of October. Can't believe we're already going to be winding in to November here. Before you know it, guys, in 2 weeks, trick-or-treating will be happening. So here's our quiet weather right now. Some snow still in Manitoba, Canada, moving into the northern parts of our country tomorrow, Minnesota, just for a brief time. But that's when the heavy of the rain is going to be moving through the south through Wednesday, and then through the Great Lakes, a big low pressure system heading towards the northeast. Western Pennsylvania and Buffalo will see heavy rain. And as this thing is making its exit, it sort of becomes a nor'easter and really is going to affect you folks out there. Thor, heads up, buddy. Cheryl as well. And there's that storm also I want to point out here at the bottom. Now check this out. That is not a discoloration or a mistake. That is snow embedded right here. Very hard to see, but in the upper elevations there will be snow. Temperatures will be cold enough as we see the cold air spilling into the northeast after this system moves through. later this week. Right now, things are already starting to cool off here in the Northeast. I can tell you that for a fact. Tomorrow, we will feel the difference. And as that storm kind of trails off, also notice that that 10% chance of formation here in the Gulf. I just lost my arrow. I'll just use this. So right here, that's maybe affecting Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Maybe. We'll continue to watch. If anything, this thing will bring heavy rain to the region, the panhandle of Florida, into Alabama. And by the Sunday, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, more snow in the forecast. And this time, it's not as heavy, but still, we're talking about snow in Colorado by early next week. And then another major low pressure system moving across the Midwest and massive amounts of rain with this system. GFS is thinking this one's going to be a nasty storm. This is next week, next Tuesday, so 7 nights from today, we will be experiencing. Look at the heavy snow that's in Canada from this system. Goodness. So this will be a very interesting system to keep our eyes on. And thankfully, nobody in the U.S. is going to get any kind of snow from this. But this next system, later in the week, brings much more colder air to the United States and more heavy rain coming back to the East Coast and Northeast again. So we've got 2 major systems moving through next week starting on Tuesday. This second one is going to probably end up bringing snow showers to the rest of the Northeast once it moves out to the Atlantic. Look at this. And that, in Buffalo, New York, my friends, on the 27th of October, is lake effect snow. Those winds are coming in from the north. The lakes are not frozen yet. It's only October. This could be our first lake effect snow event of 2019. But according to GFS, it's going to be a very minor and weak event, as snow and rain will be in the mix. But I have witnessed 40-degree temperatures with snow falling because of how cold the wind is from up north. So some really interesting times ahead for us as we close out the month of October, especially across the Midwest and the Northeast. And the trend all the way to Halloween, October 30th, temperatures look like they're going to be cold up in the Northeast. So let's take a look one more time at the precipitation. I'll kind of move it through. We have one system that moves through by Thursday here in the Northeast, another system in the Gulf trying to get moisture to the south, and then another formation by late this weekend, very minor. South gets the rain, Midwest by early next week. Lots of moisture actually through the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, into the Northeast by next Tuesday. That's system number 1, bringing in colder air behind that. System number 2 coming through on Friday, so 4 days after that first one. This will bring in much colder air behind that, freezing temperatures for Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, and of course New York, Pennsylvania, parts of Pennsylvania, into the Northeast. By October 27th, things start to calm down a little bit, but it is clear that with a pattern that we are seeing here in the northern plains through the Great Lakes into the Northeast, temperatures could be cold enough for snow showers. So let's go ahead and take a look at our temperatures real quick. Mario, did you want to come say hello to everybody while we continue to show everyone this awesome fall weather?
Oh, hi, Jake. Coming with a bang, don't I? There's a lot of complaints in the chat about you saying that 4-letter word, the S word, Jake.
Shit.
I'm deeply offended
shit
by it.
Shit hits the fan?
Well, no. It's when the shit hits you know what.
Oh, the you know what, yeah. Oh, snow.
It's October. I don't know if you've checked the calendar, but I've seen enough snow to last me a very long time. Perhaps till summer. Okay, Jake? So just cut it out. Stop being a snowmaker. Anyway, I'm just joking.
I want to point out, too, the end of October is set to be a mild one in the south, just like it is going to be in Europe and parts of the UK as well. So, interesting that we're kind of getting the same weather. Go ahead.
I was trying to figure out, some people are having problems thumbs upping and random YouTube weirdness. So I do apologize if you're having a problem. Typically, the best way to resolve issues, usually a refresh of your browser or just a restart of your browser, usually is enough to do the trick. Who knows? You mentioned Valentina Zarkova. Man, it pains me when I see her struggling and battling these. It's the cult of AGW.
The mafia.
The mafia. They are. It's like mafia, like mob behavior. They're mad. And they have really attacked her and her paper. And a lot of it is total rhetoric that just, they try to throw, it's like, I think his name is Michael Brown. He thinks he's real hot shit down in Australia, and he trolls Valentina, and he's nothing but word salad. He doesn't understand half of what her paper says, and he spins like these, he just puts a lot of spin on it with him and his little troll buddies, to the point where he's confused everything. And now Nature is reviewing her paper again and looking at unpublishing it based on...
they're not looking at unpublishing it. There's people that want to have that paper. They're trying to.
So basically...
But Nature is not looking to.
Basically, they're reviewing their accusations, and they're making a lot of work for her, trying to like defend her work even further with more statistics and numerical data, and you know, they're accusing her of getting numbers from one place when she got them straight from JPL. It's just ridiculous to watch her have to battle these, you know, mobsters off, essentially. And if they succeed, just, you can guarantee I'm gonna go on a total worldwide
listen,
tirade.
It's not going to happen. They're going to keep the paper in Nature. And I'll tell you something else. After this is over with, you really have to take a look at these people and tell them that you've put up, and now you have to shut up because what you put up didn't fall through. So again, I'm confident I'm reading the paper over myself. I'm confident that this will successfully get through this review.
A lot of the arguments they're trying to do aren't even relevant to what the paper is about.
They're adding things that she didn't even say.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
They're just trying to confuse the people at nature.com.
We'll have a press release.
Yep.
Another press release with the information. She sent me a 6-page response to people's questioning of her paper and to defend it with Nature, and I will be publishing that on our website and in our Facebook group. I did share today on Twitter an article, and it says how journals like Nature, Cell, and Science are damaging science. And it mainly has to do with these people who have an agenda and want to sculpt their own reality. And I really caution people that are, if you're presenting the climate debate to them, make them aware it's so important to be objective, because there are entities out there that have an agenda.
Well,
look at the IPCC.
Listen, anybody that is pushing hard back and harassing any folks, usually they have an investment in this too. So this is all a scam. They're protecting the scam, the IPCC carbon credit scam, and anyone that speaks against warming is going to be harassed relentlessly. And whatever it costs to spend to have the resources to harass people like Zarkova, they're going to do it, because that is going to be peanuts compared to the trillions of dollars they're going to make if people continue to believe in this beyond Ponzi scam that they have at the IPCC.
Well, we've been on for a while. The numbers are growing. The people awake to the facts and the data and the history and the science, they are... we're growing. This group is growing. We have some great stand-up people that defend the climate and natural cycles, like people like Tony Heller. He rolls with the punches. He gets trolled all the time, that guy, and he's reaching millions of people and just laying the facts on the table and making people think. So, and that's all we have to do. We've got to keep on banging our drums, sharing the information, and just getting it out, and just be power. You have these groups like Extinction Rebellion they know nothing about the topic of climate, and they're out there boogie dancing in the streets for what? It's ridiculous, and we're smarter than that, and we will get through to people. We just have to keep on with a steady drumbeat and just spread the information as much as possible. But anyway, that's my rant about Valentina. I'm talking with her when she's out of town right now, so I have a call scheduled with her, and I'm sure we're going to have a good chinwag rant fest, and I definitely want to have her back on the channel and discuss this, but I want this paper craziness to blow over for her. Matt Bros said that he learned from another channel watching an entire advertisement. Like, do you know if that's true?
I don't know, honestly, and folks, I appreciate the willingness to help the channel do better analytically. Matt is asking if watching the ads before the show helps analytics. It might. If the audience actually takes the time to watch the entire commercial, that might click something with YouTube and Google, and it might put us in the suggestions, because obviously if our viewers are watching the ads that they are showing us, then that might give that advertiser, well, let's put these people in front of more folks. So it might have something. I haven't heard that, but if you guys do that to help us, that's awesome. Thank you. You don't have to, but the thought is very appreciative, though, folks. I appreciate that.
One person asked about Super Chat, if it works, if it goes direct to us, and if you do a Super Chat, the money goes to us, but it comes at a cost, because YouTube takes 30 whopping % of it. So
yeah, and then we get it in a month from the date of the transaction. So that's why we mentioned right now, because we're in a crunch, we would prefer to receive any donations at this time through our PayPal link.
I just posted all the links
Awesome.
for people to find in a pinned comment on this video. There's also the when you go to our website, there's a little pop-up that talks about the t-shirt sale that we're having. That link will direct you right to the site, which has all the links on it as well. Something funny Scott Bros said. He said, soon we'll be digging the CO2 lunatics out of the snow drifts for proper burial.
Possibly.
It's sad but true, isn't it? Just leave them there.
Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah.
And then I want to give a shout out. We got like Jesse. I saw Richard in here. Gina's in here. Doug's in here. He was looking for the bikini ads. I said no. Tammy, High Country Homestead. They seem to be enjoying our channel. They're a newer subscriber, I believe, unless they've just popped in the chat. I haven't recognized that channel recently, but welcome. Thank you for spending your time with us here on the live show. Roy and Robert Cunningham and SoulQuest. Hello, 216. Sorry, my sympathies. SoulQuest.
We're close, baby. We're close.
Jake has taken his toll the past.
We will be there, and it'll be glorious.
But anyway,
we will form a family band, and you won't be invited, none of you, except for SoulQuest.
Anyway, well, in other fellow Browns fans, I'm sure we have some other people, Jake, that share your pain.
Thor's trolling me.
Thor isn't in the chat right now.
Good grief.
However, he has sent me some more fall photos, but I know I'm going to let him know he's in the penalty box for that
He's in the doghouse, DAWG house.
Paper bag meme that he sent
Those pictures were from 1994. All right.
All right, Doug says he wasn't looking for bikinis. Doug, then I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm so sorry.
Jeez.
Forgive me.
Throw the guy under the bus.
Explain in the comments what you were talking about. You lost me. It's hard to follow the chat sometimes. Like, if I turn my head and then, like, I miss, like, 100 different things go by me and I'm like, whoa, what'd I miss? So, I don't know. It happens, Jake. I'm not the best monitor of the live chat. I do the best I can. It's been a pleasure on this Monday evening with you, Jake. And you're going to be back in the morning. And we will have another live show on Wednesday, correct?
Yeah.
Lovely.
That's exactly what.
That's fantastic.
All right. Thanks, Mari. Jesus.
I know, I just give you a hard time.
God. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Please tune in tomorrow morning for our solar update. And then, like Mari said, we'll be live again Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Also, I'll have a farm report, crop report. We'll talk about possible impacts on North Dakota with this last snowstorm and other worries as we get closer and closer to some of these farmers' harvest. Are they going to happen? And I know Ice Age Farmer put out a pretty scary video. No food in 19 means no food in 2020. Let's hope it doesn't get to that, but we definitely have to keep an eye on this, folks. It's going to do it for us tonight. Until tomorrow morning, we will talk soon. Have a good night, guys. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.